Alright, what's up everyone? Back at it again. It is DW Darkwing Dad. Today's build is featuring, if you haven't guessed it, this guy right here, Thanos. So today we are going to be doing the Mad Titan Crown Thanos' helmet. Big build, a lot of cool information in here. My process of how I smooth my prints. This one's a little bit different as I'm going to be explaining a little bit more in depth a sprayable filler that you can actually spray directly on your 3D prints. Efficiency wise, it's gonna speed up your finishing a lot faster, get those prints smoothed a lot quicker. A lot of cool tips and tricks, some PLA welding, like I said, some sanding tips and tricks, how to reform certain things if they kind of get messed up during the print, depending on how they're sitting on the build plate. This particular file is courtesy of Hex 3D. I know many of you may be watching and say, hey, that's a cool file, where'd you get it from? Hex 3D Patreon. Awesome Patreon, 10 bucks a month. I featured a lot of their files in my builds. Shout out to the Hex 3D community. Awesome stuff. If you're looking for a great Patreon, go ahead and jump on that. Like I said, we're gonna cover the whole process, what I did to getting this helmet nice and smooth. So without any further ado, let's go. All right, printing the Thanos bucket. So you can see right from the get-go here, had to do some cropping, modified it and cropped the pieces off that wouldn't fit in Windows 3D Builder. Even scaled down to 85% and printed on an Ender 5 Plus. It was just, it's a massive helmet. It's really big. So, oh, there's my cat, say hi. So sequentially cropped off the cheek pieces. The back piece I'll show you here in a second. But here's the helmet, 0.28 layer height with ironing, Overture Echo PLA. Overall, a pretty decent print. Obviously, we're going to sand it and clean it up, but here I just kind of glued and did some minor welding just to kind of show you what the helmet looked like. So there's the Ender 5 Plus chilling on its box. How do you like that for efficiency? But you can see on the back here, the issue with this is those spikes are it's such a narrow contour that the first time I printed it, it failed. I tried adding more supports. The weight of it, it still failed. So I had to crop this back end off. So it was a nice flatter surface. You can see it got kind of chewed up here. We're going to show you how I fixed that later in the video. But just kind of started doing some PLA welding here just to kind of show you. Obviously, I'll go through and clean this all up. The outside, I still have to do the welds there. Very important. Always weld on the inside and the outside. E6000 is a great adhesive. However, it is flexible. So I just did that just to kind of temporarily hold it in place. But you definitely want to go through and weld all that just to make sure it has a nice, strong bond from PLA to PLA. But overall, I mean, the helmet did, print pretty good. We are going to have to do a good amount of sanding. It is a pretty diverse helmet. It's got a lot of little dips and curves and whatnot, but some of these areas might be troubling to kind of go in there, so I'm going to have to rely on some of my fillers and some products that I'm using to really smooth that out. But when this thing is done, you'll never see that seam. So let's stop talking and let's start prepping. All right, so here I started touching up welds that I did. I just took some 80 grit, and all I really did was just went over it just to knock it down. Get some filler in there and get all this smoothed out is when I'll really start getting intricate. I didn't go too crazy. Take some plastic metal. It's incredibly used, but it'll work. I'm just gonna wipe this down with some isopropyl just to get all the dust and debris off. Put the plastic metal, fill all these in, and then just repeat that process with this 80 grit and just smooth all this back out. Once this all starts getting smooth, I can kind of reshape it and go higher grit, 160, 180, 220, things like that. But the main goal here is to get all these filled in and all these smoothed out. And just to show you how important it is to prep your surface before you're putting any kind of filler or anything like that. This was all of the debris. It might not look like a lot, but you have to understand that if you get any kind of dust, dirt, debris, oil, surfactant, anything like that in here, it can completely affect the way that the filler agent or anything you put on here bonds. So even when you're painting too, it's very important to make sure you have a clean surface, because any kind of oils, any kind of moisture, anything like that can really give you some headaches, and it can affect the way the paint sits, filler bonds, things like that. All right, so here we are once again, back at it with the Thanos helmet. I cheated a little bit and started doing some stuff to it and didn't really film it, so I'll just explain what was going on. Just PLA welded it and then put some plastic metal in. Obviously, I got to sand all that down. These things, same here, PLA welded, put some plastic metal on there, smoothing it all down. But this is a pretty intricate helmet in the middle here, so I'm really not going to be able to fit a power sander in there. We have a lot of definition. We have lines and we have things that we don't want to lose. Like we want to keep that definition. So if you grab a power sander and just kind of throw it in there, you're going to lose definition too, which we don't want to do. We're going to go through and do a lot of hand sanding. I'm just going to kind of do it the old-fashioned way and just grab my little detail sander here and getting all these crevices, start knocking it down. I got 120 on here, so I'm going to go through, do 120, 180, see how it looks, and hopefully we can get some filler sprayed on here real soon. So let's get sanding. So the great thing about this product I'm going to show you here, guys, is all I really use is 120 and 160. Darkwing Z even helped out because Thanos is his favorite villain of all time. But just a really solid, I guess you could say, scuff sand. This product I'm going to show you that I spray on really does help fill in all the PLA lines. So let's take a look and see how the helmet is after our sanding. So quick inspection here, you can see we scuff sanded it. You can still see a decent amount of PLA lines, but wait till you see this product here, guys. So just a really good solid scuff sand, and we're gonna let this filler here do all the work. So without any further ado, check this out.
What I'm about to do, I'm gonna enjoy it very, very much.
Hold up.
All right, so before I get into actually demoing how this is applied to the model, let's talk about it. So what is this stuff? This is by a company called Evercoat, and it is slick sand. I have talked about this in my MetroCop video for a little bit. What it is a sprayable filler. Evercoat has been around for a long time. They have a ton of products. They've been in the automotive restoration industry for decades and decades. I've used this in the past, working on cars, building sub boxes, things like that, and I'm just bringing this to my 3D printing building and modeling. However, it does need some special components, and it does need a specific setup per se, so it may not be for everyone. This is a sprayable filler, so understand if you've ever used something like Bondo body filler or Hvlp Dolphin Glaze, like fiberglass resin, anything that needs a hardener, it's the same thing. So this stuff it's very liquidy. It's like paint. It's basically like enamel paint. So it is a little bit thick, but it does require a hardener. So this isn't something that you can just spray on and it's just going to cure by itself. No, you need a hardener. Essentially, the long of the short, what you do is, you pour about 4 ounces into a measuring cup and you do 10 to 12 drops. You mix it, and then you put it in some of the stuff that you need, you spray it. Sounds easy, right? Well, it pretty much is, and you'll see it in the demonstration here. Unfortunately, this stuff you can't just put in a spray bottle and spray on or paint it on. I mean, I guess you could, but it would be really messy. You need certain things to apply this the right way. So for starters, obviously you need the product, and what's cool with this is it comes in gallons, it comes in quarts, you can get whatever size you want. Comes with the hardeners, everything that you need. You are going to need a compressor. You need a compressor because it has to be sprayed with a special gun. So if you've never seen one of these, this is what's called a Hvlp gun, and what you do is you pre-mix the filler in here, pour it into the gun, and then you're going to go ahead and spray it on the model. Before you do any of that, you want to take the proper safety precautions. It does have some fumes to it. You definitely want to have a respirator. Eyewear is really up to you. It's never a bad idea. I'm not going to lie. I don't really wear eyewear. I've never gotten it in my eye. That stuff sprays up or something gets in your eye, it's probably going to hurt. So probably should take my own advice and start wearing some. Also, you're going to want to invest in some nitrile gloves. If you get this stuff on you, it is a little bit sticky. It is kind of a pain in the butt to wash off. So you're also going to want to invest in some acetone. The reason for that is this gun is going to get really gunked up from this stuff, and you're going to have to clean this out with acetone. It is kind of one of the, I guess, drawbacks to using this product is, cleaning it up. It's not anything that you can leave in here. You'll completely ruin the gun. It's about a 10 to maybe 15 minute cleanup after the fact that you use it. However, this stuff is absolutely amazing. Show you how awesome this stuff is. I've been using this on my Punisher War Machine suit. This is the chest plate. You can see really just how smooth it is and how it fills everything out. Obviously, I've got to do a little bit of work right here. There's some dips where I PLA welded it. But all I did was sand this with 80 and 120, sprayed it with the slick sand, and it's come out this smooth. It fills in things absolutely so great. So it really is an awesome product. As far as setup goes, you don't have to be afraid to spray it outside. You'll see here that I'm spraying it outside. It's perfectly okay because I understand this stuff is gonna get sanded. You know, now use your best judgment here, guys. If it's a super windy day and it's blowing stuff all over the place, you probably don't want to do it. You can see here that I kind of have like a little enclosure built out of boxes. In the past, I have mentioned the Wagner spray tents. I don't recommend the Wagner spray tents with these because the slick sand, like I said, it gets hard. It will absolutely destroy that you know, that painting tent pretty quick. It'll make it really hard. You won't be able to collapse it down. You're kind of wasting 30-40 bucks. What I found that works best, just get some fresh cardboard, maybe some wood, kind of build a little bit of enclosure just to protect it from the side. You see, I have my fence as a backer and I have a piece of wood against that. So I kind of do like a makeshift cover. And if a little bit of something gets in there, you know, you're going to sand this after the fact. So it's okay. But the biggest thing is, you know, you want to have a somewhat decently clean place to spray this. You don't want to be doing it on bare sand or something like that. I don't recommend doing it in a garage. You're going to get it all over your stuff, and it's just, it can be a nightmare to get off. As far as curing goes for this, it does require 2 to 4 hours to harden, which some people might say, oh God, I don't feel like waiting that long. However, back in the day when I used Rust-Oleum filler primer, I had to wait 2 hours before I could even sand it. It does need between 2 to 4 hours. However, it just speeds the process up so much. Other great thing about this product is you don't need a very aggressive sandpaper to knock it down. 220, 320 is really all you need. This product and this helmet, it just filled in so many of the defects. For example, here is one of my leg pieces from my Punisher War Machine suit. Again, 2 stages of sanding, and I applied it, and I mean, just look how much it fills in, guys. It just does an absolutely amazing job. I'm gonna have a lot more on this product when I have updates on my suit. If you can invest in a compressor and you have a nice place to, you know, spray with, and what I do is when the pieces are sprayed, I leave them right in my shed here. It's nice and warm, like I said, about 2 hours, and I'm ready to sand them. Don't be afraid to give it a little bit more, and if you are in a cooler area, understand you may have to wait up to 4 hours. But really great product, guys. I'll definitely have more on this. I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of insight, some of the safety precautions, the setup, things like that. So with that said, we're going to get into the next part of the Thanos helmet here. After the slick sand, we sanded the whole helmet down with 220 and 320. We're moving on to the next process in the helmet build, so let's go. All right, so taking a look here at the Thanos bucket again, we got some work to do. So here's that back piece that got all chopped up here. That's simply just sprayed with the slick sand. We got some work to do. So here you can see this is before sanding. You can still see some of those PLA lines, and then we'll flip it over to the other side. Boom, look how smooth that is. This stuff sands down so fast, and that was just with 220. Obviously, we got to get in all these nooks and crannies and start making this look better. So I went right at it. Any of the big areas that I could get with the palm sander there, I went at it. All the little intricate areas, obviously, I'm going to have to do by hand. So again, just attacking this with 220 and 320 is really all I needed. So now let's start getting some more of this helmet cleaned up. So now repairing the back of the helmet here, the great thing about using slick sand is it is a filler, so you can put additional fillers on there. If this was a glazing putty or a filler primer, you would never want to do that, but since this is a filler, it's perfectly okay. So in repairing this rear section of the helmet here, what I did is I took different files and just kind of carved and reshaped those channels and brought that definition back, folded over some sandpaper, just worked it in and literally just reshaped the whole thing. And I had to put additional fillers on top of it to get it to look like that. Mostly plastic metal, but I ended up using a little bit of Dolphin Glaze too. So once I got this piece looking good, it was time to keep sanding. What's up, dude? You making another cameo? Running into the tripod, looking for some food, enjoying the sun. Everybody, this is Sheldon. Say what's up. Can't leave my dude hanging. He keeps poking around my feet while I'm sanding. He's going over into his little burrow he made on the side of the shed. You can train a dog, but can you train a tortoise? That's what we do at Darkwing Dad. We train tortoises, but we got dogs too, and now here they come. That's why I can't ever get any work done around here. We got tortoises at my feet, and now dogs are about to chew on my helmet. Back to work. All right, so moving along with the helmet here, what I'm doing is just kind of double checking my work in a sense, going over all the surface, every nook, every cranny, just trying to reduce any possible sanding marks or anything like that. So 220, 320, every nook, every cranny, just making sure, kind of feeling it and visually inspecting it, seeing if I see anything, making sure the surface is smooth. Once it was all done, I blew it all down, wiped it all down with isopropyl, and then it kind of brought out some of the defects here. So we can see some of the stuff that the slick sand didn't fill in, just some of the deeper defects that maybe I wasn't able to spray and get with the gun, or just some stuff that just wasn't sanded as good as I thought. So what we're going to do here is some of the deeper areas and some of the deeper defects, we're going to use Bondo plastic metal. So again, slick sand is a filler, so it's perfectly okay to put a filler on top of it. And Bondo glazing putty is a glazing putty, which is obviously okay to put on top of a filler. So I'm just kind of looking for stuff that's deep, and the deep defects, we're using the filler. The very light defects, maybe the sanding marks or just some superficial things that we don't want to over sand, we're going to use the glazing putty on for. So big tip here is, when applying stuff in intricate areas, maybe curved areas or hard to reach spots that you can't get a spreader on, just throw a glove on, Nitrile glove, and just apply it with the tip of your finger. It works absolutely great. So you can see here I'm getting in all those curved areas, all those dipped areas. Again, just visually inspecting it, seeing what needs it. Let it sit for about 45 minutes, and then we'll get ready to sand it with 320. So here is the Thanos helmet, and you've seen I went through and I put the glazing putty on some of these intricate areas that just needed just a little bit more filling. In the deeper defect areas, I actually did a two-stage process. I started with the Bondo plastic metal. It has pieces of aluminum in it. So for deep defects, something that you want a really sturdy base, this is great for. Sanded that down just a little bit with 180 and 220. And I actually used a product, Dolphin Glaze by Hvlp. It's a two-piece body filler, so it does have that little cream hardener. It's nothing like Bondo body filler. It sands super easy. I'm actually most of the time able to just sand it down with 220 or 320. Think of this in between plastic metal and glazing putty. Plastic metal is a heavy filler. Glazing putty is for very, very light defects, kind of like in the middle. And I left this on here to show you. So right here was an area where I applied glazing putty too heavy. See how it cracked? That's because it was put on too thick, and when it dried, it separated. Now, luckily, I sanded that down, and when I use the filler primer, that'll simply fill that in. So no big deal. You don't really want to you would never want to put, glazing putty in something like thicker or deeper. Went through and sanded the whole thing with 320 and 400. Super smooth right now. It's pretty much ready for filler primer. The filler primer is going to bring some defects out. So this may look completely flawless, but once you put some primer on it, there are going to be some things that are going to stand out that we're going to have to knock down. The first coat of filler primer, it's kind of minorly frustrating because you feel like you said everything's nice and smooth, everything looks flawless. As soon as you put that one uniform color on, you're going to be doing a little bit more sanding on the first run and the second and the third run. I'm going to wipe this down with isopropyl alcohol and move on to the Bondo filler primer and start getting this thing looking like it's more uniform. So after a quick wipe down with isopropyl alcohol to remove any dirt or debris, I went ahead and applied 2 coats of Bondo filler primer. Yes, I am doing it outside, but it wasn't windy and I knew I was going to sand this anyways. This is just kind of to bring out some of the defects. So after we got some coats on, let it sit for 20 minutes. Let's check it out. All right, so here we got the helmet after a couple coats of filler primer. Get a shot here, but you can kind of see how there's some sanding marks here still. So even when you go over it and you think you got it, like I told you, the primer is going to show all of the defects that you miss. There's not a ton, but there's just little ones all in here. You can kind of see where it's a lot of just little fine sanding. This area is, substantially smooth. It's nice and clean, but you can see where there's just some marks where I hit it with the 120 when I was going through that just kind of gouged it just a little bit. So we got to kind of fine tune and go through and clean everything up. A little bit of work, cleanup work back here. This I'm probably going to go down to like 180 and 220 and get all this cleaned up. For the most part, it's just going to be 320 and 400. I'm going to put a fresh couple coats of filler primer on after I get most of these knocked down. Just little fine, intricate little stuff left to do on Thanos, but go through, get all this cleaned up and let you see how she looks. All right, so after the touch-ups, here we have the helmet. This is the final shot before paint. Went all the way up to 600 with this just to make sure it was smooth, but not too smooth. That back area, look how good that looks. Nice and cleaned up. Everything looks defined. We were able to keep all of the definition, all of the lines, everything that would be in Thanos' helmet. It may even be too clean. You know, the fact that this helmet is usually beat up, maybe I overdid it on this one. But anyways, this thing is nice and smooth. It's ready for paint. On the inside of the helmet here, what I actually did was I did a little bit of sanding just to make it look smooth, because I'm actually going to put some foam to cover up those welds. So I'm going to have it go probably 3/4 of the way up, but the foam will be on the inside of the helmet and kind of cover those welds. So I wasn't too worried about that, but I did sand it back a little bit just because you are going to look up and kind of see the helmet where it's mounted in the room. But overall, like I said, this thing is pretty much good to go. Looking great, looking clean. It's going to be ready for paint in no time at all. All right, guys, well, that is it. That is the part 1 of my Thanos helmet build. A lot of cool things I covered. Like I said, the Pla Welding, that slick sand. Like I said, it is an awesome product, as stated in the video. All the links for the stuff that I use will be in the description. The slick sand, the Hvlp gun, I try to give you all the information you need. Gave you a sneak peek of that Punisher War Machine suit. I'm going to show a lot more of spraying this slick sand. It's pretty straightforward, guys. Of course, if you ever have any questions, if you go out and get this stuff and you're not sure of anything, feel free to drop me a comment on here. Hit me up on the Discord. I am here to help you guys and answer any questions that you might have. Great product. Like I said, I used it for years when I was building fiberglass cell boxes and doing minor auto body repair. Great product. You just need the right setup, the right components, but if you get it, you are going to save so much time in finishing your product. So it's something that I definitely recommend if you're looking to speed up your prints. Dive in and get that. If you like this video and found it helpful, go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you are a subscriber to the channel. Thank you so much for subscribing, guys. I do appreciate all your guys' feedback. If you have any additional tips and tricks that you think may help someone, go ahead and leave a comment on the video or shout them out on the Discord. If you're not a subscriber to the channel and you do enjoy all things 3D printing, cosplay, Marvel, Star Wars, collectibles, Legos, all the stuff that we do on this channel, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Like I said, a lot more stuff that I'm going to be working on. You've seen in this video here, my Moon Knight helmet I'm wrapping up, my Punisher War Machine. So click that subscribe button and come along for the ride. As stated, I will leave links in the description for all of the products I use. So if you're trying to get a setup similar to mine and get those great results, go ahead and click those links. They're all on Amazon. Like I said, a lot of times you can find these products locally. So if you do have any questions about product availability or where to get it, don't hesitate to leave me a comment on the video or drop me a line in the Discord. Like I said, I always got your back. That's pretty much it, guys. I have got to start working on getting this helmet painted so I can get you guys part 2. I am going to beat this helmet up and look like Thanos just took it off right after the end of Endgame. I'm going to get working on that. Give me a thumbs up, drop me a comment, let me know what you think. And until next time, DW out. Later.